Welcome to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Today, we are welcoming on Samantha Cozza-Wright and Dan Gerhold on to the podcast today to talk about the cattle markets. What is going on in the world of commodities, insurance, all of the things. Samantha is someone that we are welcoming on to the CattleUSA insurance team. And so we're excited to have her on today to share a little bit more about her story, what got her into insurance, and all of the things like that. And just all of us candidly share our thoughts and opinions on what is happening in the world of the cattle market this week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this episode with Samantha and Dan. But before we do, if you guys could take a second to like, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, we would really appreciate it. And if you're here listening to the podcast every week, turn on those notifications too. That way you get notified every single time a podcast goes live, and you can add it to the top of your listening list for the week or for the day. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode. Let's go ahead and hop into this podcast with Dan and Samantha. Welcome back to another episode of the CattleUSA Daily Podcast. Today we have Samantha Cozza-Wright joining Dan and I on the podcast today. Samantha is a new CattleUSA insurance rep, and we are excited to welcome her on to join Dan and I this week and just share a little bit more about Samantha's story, what brought her here. Dan and I are going to touch on the markets as always, but we wanted to bring Samantha on as well to kind of get an introduction in, because she's going to be starting to cycle into some of the podcasts every once in a while. So we're excited to welcome you to the team, Samantha. If you could just take it away and share a little bit more about yourself and kind of what brought you here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Samantha Cozza-Wright, as you mentioned. We run a cow-calf operation here in Northwest Kansas. We background all of our calves, and then we also have a trucking and hay operation and do quite a bit of farming on the side. So kind of what brought me to LRP is just seeing the markets and the volatility and the unpredictability. It's just something where, minimizing your risk where you can. As a cattle producer myself, I would never promote something that I didn't believe 100% in. So it's just something I'm very excited to be a part of and promoting to help producers minimize their risk.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to the team, Samantha. We are so excited to have you. Dan, are you excited to have someone come on and take a little bit of the pressure off of you all the time now?
Absolutely. I mean, my shoulders are starting to wear out from the weight of the world. Yeah, I think she's going to be a great addition. She can handle everything I can.
Thank you.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
Dan, I need Samantha, one of your jobs working with Dan is also going to be to check his ego every once in a while and
Sure.
remind him he's not carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders.
Some of the other guys informed me on that last week.
Well, good. I'm glad you feel well prepared for all of that as well.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, I'm excited to have someone else on here that can make fun of you with me. And it is going to be great. It's going to be great.
Very excited.
Very exciting.
Tag team. Yeah. Keep me up. Go ahead. Put me down. You bet.
Oh, geez. Hey, these Kansas girls, we got to stick together. What can I say?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
All right.
Question, are we Kansas and K-State, or who are we rooting for between both of you here?
I'm not a
K-State.
big Kansas fan. A lot of my family was born and raised in Colorado. I'm a Broncos fan. Yeah, I think that
I'm
just
going to need a minute.
gets under Kansas people's skin a little bit.
You do live in Western Kansas, so I do understand a little bit.
Yeah, close enough.
Because you are probably closer to Colorado than you are like Kansas City, but
Yeah, don't really keep up with the Broncos as much as we used to, but definitely.
I wonder why. They kind of suck right now.
They're not doing very good. But more so on the college football side of things, looking like in Colorado State, Colorado University.
Did I just, stir the pot?
I think that was his idea.
Yeah,
That's what he's
I
trying
think
to do.
that was. He's trying to pit us against each other.
Okay. All right. Go Hawks.
I'm going to need a minute to recover from that. It's okay. It's okay. I forgive you in advance. It's all right. We can have differences.
Are
of
you a
opinions
Chiefs
when it
fan,
comes to
though? That's
sports.
what we really have to
Yes.
address.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
totally on the other side
Yes.
of that.
Yes. K-State football and Chiefs football all the way.
True
Except
Kansan
neither
right
of them
there.
are doing too hot right now. So we're just not going to talk about that. We're going to remember that there is still opportunity for growth in all aspects. Funny story. We were going to church on Sunday and driving along. I was driving. Our path to church goes by the stadium. Well, Sunday morning they do film on Sunday mornings. Well, we were going to the 8 a.m. service, so we were driving by about 7:30, and so the boys were walking in, and I didn't roll my window down, but I did yell, maybe you should go in there and learn how to play football.
I can get behind that.
As we were driving by, my husband kind of was like, we're on our way to church. Take it down. It's like,
I can repent my sins when I get there.
Exactly. Yes. Quite fun.
I have nothing to add to this. I have nothing. We just opened up a can of worms.
You did. You did open up a can of worms. You absolutely did. Well, another can of worms that we can open up, Dan. What are the markets doing? What is going on in that world right now?
Markets are, I guess you'd call it a little bit bipolar. Chopping back and forth, beating everybody up. Volatility is full max. Other than yesterday's quiet day, down $1. It's been up 2, 3, 4, down 5, 6, 8. Up 2, 3, 4, down 5, 6, 8. Especially in the feeders, that's been pretty brutal. Managed money's exiting those positions, which is not a surprise given corn's looks like it's made a bottom for the year and on its way higher. So feeder cattle setting back. I have to wonder, watching this action, if part of this is because of cattle on feed this Friday. And if we look at the numbers blindly, it looks like a pretty bearish report, having the estimates say we placed more cattle than what we killed. So that's obviously the first big bearish sign. We did have one less marketing day, so that's a factor and gets us more back to, placements pretty par with marketing. So inevitably, August isn't a time frame where you're going to massively increase the number of cattle on feed. But here, you get past September, you start getting towards that fall calf run. That's going to change things. So we'll see what happens. I know a lot of guys, they shipped their cattle. They sold their cattle early because they didn't want to miss the markets. That could be a factor as we come in, post-harvest. Farmers are climbing out of the combine and wanting to do something with their cheap corn. So that might be a factor. But overall, it appears like this Friday's cattle on feed was a big factor in the last, 2-3 weeks of downtrend. How we trade after this report is going to kind of decide our fate. If we just started a long-term bear trend, or if we're actually going to continue this bull rebound and go set new highs. Excuse me. Overall, beef is sliding too. Pretty seasonal. As we mentioned, it's, hamburger helper and tater tot casserole season. It's not ribeyes and sirloins. It's just, let's get the kids to school. When we get home, let's get their homework done, cook a cheap, easy supper, and move on with life. So we don't have a lot to look forward to until we get all the way to Christmas when it comes to beef demand. Some of those wholesalers, some retailers starting to buy those rib rolls we need for Christmas demand. So that's beginning a little bit, pretty normal. Starts about this time of year as we see the prices soften. So hopefully that Christmas demand is truly there at these higher prices so that we can maintain this thing. And then as we get past Christmas and New Year's, we start looking forward to grilling season. So overall, it's a pretty seasonal dip. Typically, this dip takes place between September 1st, Labor Day, all the way to the first part of October. So the big question now that we've taken quite a bit off box beef prices and we're got that choice back in the 300s is, can we rebound or can we hold 385, 390, which would be a normal percentage-wise seasonal dip. So if we can't hold 385 to 390, we might be in some trouble because that's showing a shift in consumers. So we don't want to see us dip below 380 especially. That might make a longer term projection change from, a Christmas rally to now all of a sudden we're looking for just maintaining 350, 360, 370. What does that look like? Beef has been talked about a lot from President Trump. Quick one-liners. Pretty much every news outlet is talking about it, so that's not supportive for beef prices. But like I said, it's not typically a strong month for demand.
Your cowboy boots tell your story before you ever speak. Every scuff, every crease is a memory. At Chizo's, we make each pair like it's the only one that matters, because to the man who wears them, it is. cowboy boots made to be worn for years and worth passing down. Find yours at Chizos.com. That's CHISOS.com. Chizos. Do right. Love Texas.
Yeah. I'm ready for beef to be out of the news cycle a little bit. It's one of those situations where we like good news, but I think I would just like to stay out of it altogether, because I think when you start talking about beef, when you start talking about cattle on these national news markets, it's just a cycle, right? Because they start talking about beef prices, they open that can of worms, and then now everyone's talking about it. And then they can't stop talking about it until the quote unquote problem gets solved for their consumers that are listening, because now people care and people notice a little bit more, which I mean, rightfully so. We've seen some pretty drastic changes as far as prices on the counter going recently, and consumers are concerned, but at the same time, I'm like, just get us out of the news. Can we cancel that edition, please? Thank you.
I agree, Lauren. Speculation is really playing kind of a tug of rope on this market.
Yeah, it definitely is. What are our thoughts on the feeder cattle market right now? I was talking to some people last week, and I feel like we're finally starting to kind of see the trickling effects of the southern border being closed, which we knew was coming, right? We've been seeing the effects for a few months now, but I feel like we're really starting to kind of see it. Numbers being lower, prices being higher. What are our thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm in volume. Barnes that report to the index is once again drastically lower. So, and a lot of times your Mexicans don't go through those sale barns. But anyways, nonetheless, the numbers aren't there. We're proving that, and that's getting reflected in your cattle on feed reports too. So, in the last week, I've seen prices soften just a touch. I mean, they're not falling out of bed. Certain weight classes are dropping harder than other weight classes. Your big 9-10 weight steers, they're strong. They're full steam ahead. Guys wanting to hit that wintertime market, burn up some corn quick this winter and move on. As far as the light calves, they're starting to soften a little bit. Supplies are more readily available. It's barbecue season. It's every sale barn's, appreciation dinner. So that always comes with a few extra head. But overall, when we look at the supply, like you mentioned, Mexico's still shut off. Other people here domestically have sold their calves early. The supply is not growing. There's just no wall of cattle coming. So I don't, I talked to a guy last night, and his question is, when do feeders take the big hit? My opinion is feeders are going to stay high until we see fat cattle, or I apologize. Feeders are going to stay high until we see these feed yards start losing money. Well, right now you've got a lot of cattle that are getting sold with 220 break evens. We're selling 235 to 245, in the last 2 months. They're just making a killing. So if those guys are profitable, they're going to keep turning around and buying back feeders no matter what they cost. If they start losing money on this next turn, the breaks even at 240, 245, there's some that touch 250. Those are the ones, that following turn could get hammered on the feeder cattle side.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that sentiment 100%. It's a volatile time in the cattle industry. And like you said, I think the best way to describe the markets right now is bipolar. I couldn't have come up with a better single word to describe what we're seeing right now, because we were coming on last week and it hadn't been a good couple weeks since you and I had last talked, Dan. And now we're coming on again, and it's like, well, it's a freaking roller coaster over here. 5 steps forward, 10 steps back type of situation. And then we don't really know what the next day is going to bring as far as the volatility goes, and as far as managed money and people pulling out and putting in and all of the things. Like, it's all over the place. And I think it just goes back to the thing that we've talked about a million times now, of the market's volatile, and unfortunately, we don't have that crystal ball that says, hey, this is what we can expect over the next few months. But as we've kind of gone over the past 3 weeks, Dan, what are your thoughts going out and finishing up the rest of September?
I think producers need to look at feed needs. Harvest is starting a bit early up here in the Corn Belt, and yields are not what everybody thought they were from driving down the road. Potential was pretty big starting out. And the common theme here from what I'm hearing is a lot of 20 to 40, 50 bushel back from last year. Some guys are, depending on fungicide, we had a big problem with southern rust up here. There's a common theme is, Guys who didn't spray fungicide are 40 to 50 bushel under APH. It's pretty ugly, but as a whole, most people did, I would say, and you're still not going to create this massive crop we had last year. Last week's grain report showed the USDA actually reducing the yield, which in my opinion was a bit early, so we're probably going to see even a larger reduction later on this year into January. We also saw them increase the acres. Long story short, they're going to play with the numbers. But at the end of the day, farmers aren't going to be that willing to sell bushels until they can figure out what their crop insurance is paying. They've got to try like heck to be profitable with this crop, even though it's a short crop and prices are depressed. So if it is a short crop for some, will they have the storage? Are they going to shut the door, lock the bin, and walk away until we get to December, January? I think we need to be proactively managing our feed risk. Do I think corn's going north of $5? Personally, no, I don't think that. But could you see that move to $4.50, $4.70? Absolutely. So depending on your feed needs here in the next several months, I'd be looking at getting some book.
Yeah, definitely. And like you were just talking about the fact too that corn has kind of hit its bottom. So be watching it and get it now. Don't wait until you finally need it and corn is rising back up again. Any other closing thoughts from either of you as we round out the podcast today? Anything else that we didn't hit on as far as the markets go or just the industry in general?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Samantha, Dan, as always, thank you so much for your time. To all of our listeners out there, we talked about the volatility, the hot and cold, the bipolarness of the markets this week. Make sure that you go check out those show notes down below and get a hold of our CattleUSA insurance team. They will be able to give you the most updated LRP rates and just chat with you with what works best for your operation. Because the reality of it is every operation is different and everything is going to look different for everyone that gives them a call. So it never hurts to just give them a call, get your questions answered, and all of the things like that. So check out those show notes, follow that link, and get a hold of our team to help with the volatility of this crazy cattle industry that we are a part of right now. Both of you, thank you for your time today coming on. Samantha, we are excited to welcome you to the team. Dan, thank you for your knowledge as always and for stirring the pot a little bit. Now Samantha and I have something interesting to talk about. So much appreciated. To all of our listeners out there, we will see you all tomorrow on another episode. Have a good one, y'all.